writings. Psychic and author Barry Strohm has used his gift of spirit communication to speak with the souls who participated in the life of Jesus, as well as the Spirit of Jesus, who explains the events of his life in detail. The author's 11th book, Jesus the Missing Years, brings you in detail what took place during those years and explains why these details were not recorded for history. When you hear the truth about the life of Jesus, you will be amazed at the planning and forethought God put into the preparation and execution of the life of Jesus, so the creation of Christianity would change the life of billions of people for thousands of years. Jesus the Missing Years is now available on Amazon.com in softcover, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. Signed copies of either softcover or hardcover versions of Jesus the Missing Years, as well as all of the other books by the author, are available on the website www.barrystrom.com. Whatever your belief, knowing the truth about the life of Jesus will reinforce your foundation of faith and allow you to understand the life of Jesus, the man, as well as Jesus, our Lord. Is it another dimension, a paradise? Does it really even exist? We're all going to pass from this earth, and knowing what comes next can end the fear of death and bring you peace. Our goal here at Hello Heaven is to answer these questions and many more concerning the afterlife. Welcome to our podcast, Hello Heaven. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Hello Heaven. I'm Barry Strohm, your host. If you're interested in learning the truth about heaven and tonight about reincarnation, you've come to the right place.
And I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host. Barry and I have been attempting to bring you the truth about the afterlife and the realities of heaven. We currently have over 710 videos on our YouTube channel. It's in the name of Barry Strohm, and you can view our past shows as we bring you all aspects of the paranormal and supernatural. On Hello Heaven, we try to use pre-recorded video calls where our listeners tell us supernatural events that happen to them or questions they would like to ask a spirit. At the current time, we're looking for individuals that have had near-death experiences.
Okay, if you'd like to participate in our program, send an email to onestrom@gmail.com. Tell us about your experience or the topic of your questions, who you'd like to channel, and I'll get back to you with a time to make a recording.
We do Hello Heaven as a live stream on YouTube, as well as Barry's personal Facebook page and in our Facebook groups. Our most active Facebook group is Words of God Then and Now, and all of our live videos are broadcast there. We then post audios of our broadcasts where you can download them and listen to the shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Alexa, and many other audio platforms.
Now, this week we're going to investigate reincarnation, and then I'm going to tell you about one of my prior lives as proof that reincarnation is very, very real. So, Connie, let's begin by asking some questions of our guide, Laura.
Yes, Laura, thank you again. Don't know what we'd do without you. Would you like to explain to our listeners the definition of reincarnation?
Reincarnation is when a soul energy returns to an incarnate life. It can be done on your planet Earth or many of the other planets in the galaxy. Reincarnation is very important because it allows a soul energy to learn lessons that can only be learned by living a real life. Even Jesus returned so that he could live a human life and understand truly all of the emotions that went with it.
Why can't a human remember his or her prior life?
In certain instances, they can, but in most instances, they cannot. God does not want you to remember a prior life. It is not important, and it may unduly influence the current life that you're living. The current life that you're living reflects the karmas that you built in your prior life. They could be good karmas, they could be bad karmas. It may be that your prior life had a lot of evil in it, and you would not want to know what took place in that life because it would influence how you live this current one. So there are many reasons why God does not want you to remember your prior lives.
Does a soul make its own decision and if and when it wants to return?
Yes, a soul has free choice. It can make its own decisions on both sides of the veil of life. When the soul is on the other side in heaven, it can decide for itself when it wants to return. Now it has to work with its guides, and the guides will influence the time scheduling and how it takes place. But if a soul does not want to return to another incarnate life, it doesn't have to do it. It can remain where it is if it is satisfied with what realm it resides upon, and it can decide to come back. Sometimes it does not want to come back for quite a while, and there's no time on the other side. So there's really no pressure.
Can your guides stop you from reincarnating?
Yes, if they feel that you have had problems in a prior life and that you are not ready to try to solve those problems, and that the life that you want to live would result in a lot of evil, then they can delay you from returning. That delay can be indefinite. When you decide in your heart that you want to live a good life, they will allow you to return. But if there is a distinct possibility that you will do the same evil that you did in a prior life, they're not going to let you come back.
Okay. How are the parents selected? And by the way, thank you for doing such a wonderful job of helping me pick my family.
Your life is laid out. Parents play a huge role because they're the ones that do the educating of your soul energies while you are still young. And the young need to learn how to live their lives. If you are going to live a certain life, it's like walking a tightrope. Your parents that you choose should help you live the life that you want to live in your life plan. Sometimes we make mistakes with parents, and sometimes the parents that we give you are wonderful and do exactly what is needed to be done to support your life plan. We look at all of the people that are having children, and we try to match them as best we can.
When you return to heaven, do you have access to the memory of your prior lives?
Yes, your guides will use the prior lives in your judgment. Your prior life was instrumental in making your life plan, and they will tell you how you lived your life according to the lessons that you needed to know. Your prior lives really set the pattern for the life that you would like, that you need to live when you return. When you return, you're given free will, so you can move away from that life plan. But it is possible that the life that you live is exactly the one that you've chosen. Okay.
When you're on the other side, do you have total control over what will take place in your new life plan?
No, you can make a life plan in which many things take place. But once you get on this other side and you become an adult, you can make choices that will take you away from your life plan. If you believe in God and you pray for help, then the odds are pretty good that you will get assistance in following the life plan that you made up. But if you make choices that are evil, if you draw away from your life plan, if you do not pray for help, then you're pretty much on your own. And the life that you live can be totally different from the life that you laid out in your life plan.
Yeah. When does the soul energy enter a baby?
There is an energy that enters the cells even as early as conception.
Hmm.
It is not until a baby takes life, a heartbeat, a body that can exist, that the soul will actually enter the baby. But there are soul energies. There's
Hmm.
much help available for a baby that has been conceived. The baby has got to grow in the womb of the mother, and it has got to be allowed to mature. The soul energies will help that baby to mature in the body of the mother. By the time the mother gives birth, the soul energy that is assigned to that baby is within the body of that child. So there's a pattern that it goes through. From conception, the souls have a chance to follow a life plan. That life plan is assigned to those cells even as early as conception. So you see, when you interrupt the life of a baby, you ruin a complete life plan. There is no other way to look at it.
Yeah. Can the same soul energy be present in more than one body at the same time?
It can be for a period of time. Generally, it is possible that a soul on the other side wants to have two different life experiences, but that those life experiences only take place during a short time period. In those cases, the energy can be present of the same soul in two different bodies for a period of overlapping time. Generally, it does not take place for the complete life of an individual, but it is possible. Sometimes part of the soul energy just simply wants to remain in heaven and hope to try to have influence over the energy that is in an incarnate body. But yes, it is very, very possible that a soul can have a split energy.
Hmm, that's some new information. Did Barry ever have a split soul experience?
Yes, he has had several. His soul has been very active in wanting to reincarnate. Sometimes it is to participate in a historic event that he saw into the future that he would like to participate in. And sometimes he has a mission of God that he is sent back to do. So it is possible that the timing of events have an overlap. For instance, when he served in the Civil War, his soul died in 1865. But he wanted to participate in the Little Bighorn battle and to be able to serve God by returning and helping the Native Americans during that terrible time in their existence. So he had to be born before the end of the Civil War to do that, because the Battle of the Little Bighorn took place in your years in 1876. So there was a period of about 5 years that his soul was present in two different bodies. So it is very possible. And there have been times before that in his prior life experiences that similar events have taken place.
So is that common that the souls want to be present in more than one body?
No, actually, it's quite unusual. But because of the events that he had to participate in, it necessitated that there was a split life for him to do it. He would not. The Battle of Little Bighorn took place approximately 12 years after his time of passing in his prior life as a Confederate soldier. So that would have been too young for him to participate as he needed to do. So for 3 to 4 years, as he was a baby in his Native American state, he was also an adult in his Confederate Civil War state. So for that short period of time, there was an overlap where his soul was present in two incarnate forms.
Amazing. Is it possible for a soul to leave a body after it was born?
It would be very, very unusual for that to take place. I'm not saying it has never happened, but it would be highly unusual and rare.
Is it possible for two souls to exchange bodies?
That has taken place. There have been intermingled life plans where the souls have decided that they want to exchange their positions while the incarnate form is at an early age. And there have been times under those circumstances that souls have definitely exchanged bodies.
Wow. How many future lives can be affected by bad karma from a past life?
As many as the evil dictates. If a human body has lived many, many evil events in a prior life, then he has built up much negative karma. And that karma can affect any number of future lives. For instance, a person that is truly evil, such as a Hitler, has created such negative karmas that it will affect probably thousands of his future lives when he is allowed to return from the lowest level and to begin to try to rebuild. Keep in mind that incarnate lives are incredibly short duration in comparison to the lives of your soul. So, really, how much damage you do to a future life is totally in your hands by how you live this present life. We've told you many times that individuals that create great wealth and do not use it to help others will live future lives of poverty. How many lives of poverty they live will be determined by how much money they made and did not use to help others. So many people are headed for real problems in future lives. They should always make the decision to help others and show love. The way to assure yourself of a happy future life is simply to live a good life in this time. The more that you help others, the more that you give to others, the more things that you do to show love and coexistence. All of those things give you positive karma that will come into play in your next life plan. You may even build up so much good karma that it may affect future life plans in addition to the next one. So you see how important it is that you live a good life.
Thank you so much, Laura. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes. I would like each listener to truly understand the importance of reincarnation. It is absolutely real. The religious organizations have tried to downplay it and actually tried to take the act of reincarnation from the Gospels and the Bible. God wants you to be self-reliant on how you live your life, on how you choose between good and bad and evil, and living the way you should live. He wants you to understand that you get many, many chances, almost infinite chances at incarnate lives. Through the years, the different churches have tried to take that possibility away. They want you to believe that there is only one way to heaven, and that way to heaven is through their church. They did not want you to understand that your own decisions determine your fate, and that really it is through how you live your life that your future life plans are determined. So, in many instances, the churches did not want you to even think about reincarnation because that would lessen the power that church organization has over you. Individuals have total control over how they are judged and how they advance in the realms of heaven. There is no organization, such as a church, that can give you safety from the evil that you have done. When your time of passing comes, that day you cannot be absolved of your sins. You have lived a full life, and you have shown a pattern of evil, or you have shown a pattern of good. And that is how you will be judged. So reincarnation is not something that the churches really want you to believe in. They don't want you to know that you get a second, shall we say, bite at the apple with life. They want you to think that when you die, things are over. You get one trip to heaven, and the church has helped determine whether you get into that heaven or not. That is so far from the truth. The truth is all souls go to heaven. The truth is all souls have the opportunity to live multiple lives, to learn multiple lessons, and this has taken place since the time of creation. God has made things fairly complicated, and he has made things very simple. Just simply follow his words, show love, don't do anything that you don't want done to yourself, and you will find that your future lives will be much better for it. So I'm always here to try to help you, and thank you once again. Thank you for allowing me to try to answer questions about a very complicated subject. And in truth, it's a subject you'll never truly understand until you return home. So goodbye, and thank you for allowing me to come through once again.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. You've always got some amazing information for you. Now, I'm blessed with the ability to know information about many of my prior lives, but I believe the story of one of them will give you the true proof that reincarnation exists beyond any doubts. Now, the story begins when I was channeling information for my fourth book, Spirits Speak of Conspiracies and Mysteries. I wanted to do a chapter on George Custer and the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Since there were no survivors, and the members of the 7th Cavalry directly involved with Custer, much is truly unknown about the battle itself. Now, as I was to learn, most of the information came from Native Americans who survived the battle. Now, in the beginning, when I was trying to work on the book, we channeled General Custer, and he answered many of the questions about the battle for us. As a result of that channeling, Connie and I visited the battlefield at the Little Bighorn. The guide set it up that we met the chief of the Crow Nation, who control most of the land around the national park area. And I was allowed to visit areas of the battlefield that are not ordinarily accessed by visitors. There were places as I walked around on the battlefield that I thought that I really was there before. It was kind of this deja vu effect. I felt these energies, especially when I was up in the area where Major Reno had fought. But it was kind of a strange sensation for us. Now, when we went back to the store during a challenge session, I began to ask our guides questions about why I had those feelings and what happened. Now, needless to say, since I'm telling you a story, the answer was not what I expected. I began asking the guides, and I think it was Laura, why I felt like I had been to the Little Bighorn before. The guide's answer was, because you fought there. So I asked, was I with Custer in the 7th Cavalry? And the guide comes back and says, no, you were not with Custer per se. I ask, who was I with? The answer comes back, Reno, and you did not like him. Now, Reno was a bit of an alcoholic, and none of the men that fought under him really cared a whole lot about him. But Major Reno was the highest ranking officer serving under Custer at the Little Bighorn. He and the majority of his men survived after 2 days of hard fighting. Those that were with Custer did not. So I asked the guides if I survived the fighting. And the answer was, yes, you were 15 at the time of the battle. Now, you had to be 18 to serve in the cavalry. So I knew that I wasn't a soldier. So I asked the guides, how did I serve in the battle? And they came back with a single word, scout. Custer had several Native American scouts assigned to him. I didn't know a whole lot about the history, the in-depth at that time. So I asked him what my name was in the lifetime where I served as a scout for the 7th Cav. The guide comes back and answers, Yellow Cloud, but the white man called you William or Billy. Now, that was a little strange. Indian names are not usually William or Billy. So at the time, I started to do some research. I found that there were 33 Native American scouts assigned to the 7th Cav, of which 6 were killed during the battle. And then I almost fell out of my chair when I found out that one of those Indian scouts was a half-breed Dakota Sioux translator assigned to Major Reno, and his name was Billy Cross. Very strange, but it certainly aroused my curiosity. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Battle of the Little Bighorn, let me give you a quick outline of what took place. In 1876, the Plains Indians, including the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, were resisting being placed in reservations and joined forces in southeastern Montana Territory on lands that were promised to the Crow Indians through prior treaty. The 7th Cavalry, a force of 700 men under George Custer, was dispatched to defeat the Indians and have them return to their reservations. And this was described and is referred to as the Great Sioux War of 1876. The Indians were led by Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Chief Gall. Now, for the battle, Custer divided his companies into his 12 companies into 3 battalions. 3 companies were placed under Major Reno, 3 were placed under Captain Benteen, and the remaining 5 remained under Custer's direct command. The Indian encampment at Little Bighorn was immense. What Custer did not know was that this huge encampment had over 1,200 warriors in it with their families. Custer made the assumption that the Indians would not fight since their women and children were present. The Indians were famous for protecting their families. If the families were endangered, it was not uncommon that the Indians would simply refuse to fight and give up. Now, 5 of the divisions of the 7th Cavalry were ultimately wiped out. Those were the ones under Custer. The total U.S. casualty count was 268 dead, 55 severely wounded, with 6 passing from their wounds, and 6 of the Indian scouts were killed. Now, so we can understand the role of Billy Cross, which was me in prior life, we need to understand what role he played in the battle. So let me give you a little bit of information what was taking place. Custer placed Reno and his scouts on the left flank and ordered him to begin the attack. Billy Cross was among Reno's men and was sent to capture the horses and disrupt the Indian encampment. His men opened fire on the encampment, killing the women and children. that were part of the Sioux. Chief Gull's family was killed as part of that. Reno did not realize the size of the warriors' force that he was about to face. After he opened fire on the encampment, he was faced with more than 500 warriors. The Indians routed Reno's men. They retreated to high ground on a bluff above the battlefield. He lost about 30 of his men in the retreat and formed a defensive position on the high ground on the bluffs above the Little Bighorn River, where he was joined by Captain Benteen's column. In all, there were 14 officers and 340 troopers that fought from this defensive position on the high ground of the bluffs. They fought for almost 2 days until they were rescued by a column of men under the command of General Terry. Custer engaged the encampment approximately 3.5 miles from where Reno and Benteen were engaged. He charged the encampment with his 5 divisions. As he was crossing the Little Bighorn River, one of the Indian defenders got a lucky shot and hit Custer in the abdomen and knocked him from his horse into the river. The charge stopped as they had to put Custer back on his horse. And they ended the charge and started to retreat up to the high ground to try to form defensive positions. The warriors had now organized and destroyed Custer's entire command. The entire Battle of the Little Bighorn lasted about 1 hour. Now, Billy Cross was with Reno, and I found an account that was given after the battle by an Arakaia scout named Strikes 2, where he speaks of being with Cross during the battle. Now, here is the exact account that the Indian gave after the battle that took place near Major Reno. These are the words of the Indian. 6 of us left the bluff and went to where we could see the timber. From the same point, we could see that Custer was being defeated. The 6 of us went to where the pack train was, and 3 Sioux scouts joined us, making 9, and we went to water the horses. A Sioux interpreter, Billy Cross, went with us, making 10 in all. I took a walk and saw 7 men whom I supposed to be our scouts, but found out they were Sioux who had surrounded the soldiers. An Indian named Stab that was with us proposed that we head for some timber, and we did so. But we found timber scattering and went on to a knoll and had a skirmish with the pursuers. So the Indians were now trying to chase them as well. The Sioux interpreter, Billy Cross, went with us. Soldiers on the bluff were surrounded and fighting at the same time, and all of us fought till sundown. After dark, we could see flashes of guns. We got on horses and fired guns and made a bluff at a charge, and then started for Rosebud. That was an area where the army was, and they were trying to flee for safety at that point. The interpreter, white man Billy Cross, was still with us all the way. And when we got to the Powder River, all the soldiers crowded around him to hear what had happened. So from this and other interviews, we know that Billy Cross was involved in active fighting at the Little Bighorn. I found out that William Cross had enlisted in the U.S. as an Indian scout at Fort Abraham Lincoln under the command of General Custer in 1876, the summer that the general met his death at the Little Bighorn. Cross was assigned to run mail between the general's command and Fort Abraham Lincoln, which was the command area for the 7th. Cross delivered the last living correspondence the fort received from the 7th Cavalry before the battle. Now, Reno assigned several of the scouts, including Cross, to disrupt the Sioux encampment by stealing the horses. Billy Cross actually told his story to a news correspondent for the Chicago Tribune on July 15, 1876, and you can still find a copy of his interview online. Now, here's what I found most interesting. After the battle, Cross headed east to attend school at one of the Indian boarding schools. After completing his education, he returned as a minister and in 1890 founded St. James Episcopal Church in Cannonball, North Dakota. Cross died in 1894 at the Fort Peck Reservation near Carlton, Montana. He was instrumental in leading and trying to aid the Indian population after the battle. Now I'm going to show you a photograph. That is a picture of me in prior life as Billy Cross with his Indian family. You can see that he has 3 children and an Indian wife. And this was during the period of his life where he was a minister and was doing his best to help the native population. I thought that was really, really interesting. Now, it's truly a gift to know where your soul was in prior life, and especially that it wound up serving God by becoming a minister. So apparently there's a bit of a pattern here. I hope my story today helps you to truly believe in reincarnation. I know of other prior life stories that verify my prior life histories as well. All of you have prior lives, and when you return home to heaven, you will become aware of them.
Barry's 11th book, The Missing Years, A Modern Gospel, is now available in paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon.com. This weekend only, the paperback is for sale on Amazon for over 30% off the retail price of $14.95. We want this book to reach as many people as possible. And if many of you participate in purchasing it this weekend, it could become an Amazon bestseller, which would be wonderful for the world. This book covers information about Jesus that has never been disclosed before. We channeled 24 different spirits that walked the earth with Jesus, and they told us the truth of his life. If you'd like a signed copy, order it to our website, spiritspredict.com or barrystrohm.com. So thank you for listening to our podcast, Hello Heaven. Please join us on YouTube Live as well as Facebook Live on Barry's personal page and in our Facebook groups on Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. The audio of our shows can be heard on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Alexa, Spotify, iHeart, and all the major platforms. So please tell your friends about our shows. They're meant to prove the existence of an afterlife and put you at peace. God bless you.
Okay, if you want to check out the videos, we are always posting the show on our live streaming channels at 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Fridays. We'll be making the show audio available on the major streaming platforms for download or to just listen at the same time. We hope you enjoy Hello Heaven. I hope that some of you contact me that you would like to appear on the show. We would like to do it with interviews from our listeners, but we have not currently been hearing from too many of them. So tell your friends about our show. And goodbye, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Hello Heaven. Please join us Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time on YouTube and Facebook. You can hear us on multiple audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Alexa, and other media platforms as well. If If you'd like to appear on the show, send an email to onestrohm@gmail.com and tell us your story. Have a great week. Tell your friends about our show. They'll thank you for it. Music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.